Some Christians and entire churches like to blame everything on the spiritual battle warfare going on instead of them just being an asshole. So what's up with those people, and why do they think that? And
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Like there are individuals that are that do think everything is a demon. And and honestly, they do. They excuse their own bad behaviors.
Yes.
Because I think that's what you're referring to, right? Like they'll excuse their own inability to communicate well. They're excusing their own inability to be kind, right?
Right.
By saying, well, that was just the devil. Well, no, that was you know.
Or the fact that they can never get ahead in life because the devil's after them. And
correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And
like,
there's that too.
Or.
Right. And I was thinking about like this, like I've heard this phrase before, like, there's, that, we need to be like unoffendable. Or like, let me put it this way. If you are offended, that's a spirit of offense.
Right.
Right. In other words, okay, yeah, I just said the cruelest thing in the world to you, but suck it up.
Oh,
because
right.
That's a spirit operating.
Right.
That now you're offended at me.
Right. But
I'm really not to blame.
And supposedly I said something that was biblical, but it wasn't really biblical. It was said in a mean-spirited way.
Yeah.
And you're just offended.
Right.
Right. That.
Right.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
That's a fun one.
You've been down that. Yeah, you've heard that one?
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah. And like, that's just not like, so especially in the charismatic Pentecostal circles, man, that's used and abused.
Yes.
Just to get... to excuse people.
I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, man, it's
such dumb.
It's terrible, and because it excuses bad behavior.
Yeah.
It excuses people from taking accountability. And I think that's kind of what you're getting to,
yes.
right? Like it excuses people from taking accountability for their own actions and their own lives.
Right.
And it's
I was thinking about the lives part more than the actions part.
Yeah. But same thing though, like when Paul's addressing, in Ephesians, we read Ephesians 6 where it talks about all that, standing against the evil one. But prior to that, in Ephesians 4, he says very clearly a couple different times, like walk worthy of your calling. In other words, you're in Christ, so walk in unity. Walk in love, right?
Okay.
Walk in light, like this is the way you're supposed to be. And this is the way you're supposed to walk. And when you're not doing that, there are individuals that will not do those things. They will not walk in unity. They will not walk in love. They will not walk in light. They will not walk according to the prescriptions of Scripture. And then they blame the enemy.
Right.
Right? For the way people take things, for the way people assume things, or for their own lives being in shambles.
Or they go to church and look for hope all the time instead of realizing that they need to do something.
Yeah.
And think it's I need to spiritually find what I'm looking for instead of just going to work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like where they're searching for the good part and they're not necessarily blaming it on demons, but they're searching for they're looking for hope or something, and the hope you could make yourself.
Yeah. I think what you're talking about is like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think kind of where you're going with this is like individuals, and like you said, they can't get ahead.
Right.
Or it's like at least they feel like they cannot get ahead. And so it must be the enemy.
Right.
So for the last 20 years, it's been the enemy, right? When the reality is they're not able to just be stable in their commitments to show up to work, right?
Right.
To just take responsibility for their own lives. And I think that's where, earlier when I was talking about the lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, like you don't even need demons to push you into those things. Like there's enough in our own flesh. Because there is a war that is happening even in our own flesh, and maybe that's something we've not really talked about. But in Galatians chapter...
Nature's out to kill you.
Nature's out to kill you.
Right?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by nature is out to kill you.
I mean, just demons don't have to do anything. You can just walk into the woods and get a tick and die.
Well,
I mean, right?
No, that's true.
So
that's true.
So that wasn't,
that wasn't a demon. That was just
yeah.
No, I mean that's true, right? And so, but like, all right. So in Galatians chapter 5, verse 16, it says this: "I say then, walk by the Spirit, and you will certainly not carry out the desire of the flesh. For the flesh desires what is against the Spirit, and the Spirit desires what is against the flesh. These are opposed to each other, so that you don't do what you want. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law." And what I'm getting to here is there's just fleshly desires that we have, right?
Yeah.
And that have nothing to do, and I'm saying that have anything to do with the demonic, because I just earlier said in James 4 that if we take the position of the flesh, we choose the world, we're choosing the kingdom of the enemy. But what I mean is there doesn't have to be even a lot of demonic influence involved, right? There's enough fleshly desire in every one of us, and that is why there is a battle. And so these two that are opposed to each other, that the Spirit and the flesh, are at war with each other, because the Spirit, hopefully within you, is saying, get up, take responsibility, go to work, right? Take care of your car, take care of your finances, budget properly, right? Like those kind of practical things.
Feed the kids.
Yeah. Don't just be impulsive, in other words, right? Don't just do what you want, do what the Spirit is leading you to do. And so, and I think that's an important part, because I do think there are individuals that are so hyper spiritual that's like they're sitting around kind of waiting for the Spirit to lead them or guide them to do anything.
Right.
And then they're kind of waiting. And then if things don't work out, then all of a sudden it's the enemy that's against them. And you're like, nah, dude, you broke because you hadn't worked in a month. Mm-hmm.
But all of their energy also is put toward searching for this. Like they just haven't found the right corner of the Spirit or something to do it, and so all their energy goes towards that instead of
Well, I don't know if have you ever heard the phrase, they're so heavenly minded they're no earthly good.
Right. Okay, there you go. I didn't know there was a phrase.
Yeah, and so that's a phrase that's out there. It's like,
okay,
you're so and I think that can be taken to an extreme. We should be heavenly minded, right? Yeah. Set your mind on things above. Like that's very scriptural to do, right? Like that's Colossians 3 in a nutshell, right?
I didn't know there was a phrase for this.
Yeah. So, but we want to be those that are spiritually minded, that are heavenly minded, that are setting our mind on things above. But there's an extreme of that, right? Of going, man, all you can think about is the spiritual, and you're actually doing nothing here on the earth, right? Like even Paul gets on to the Thessalonians for this, and he says, if you don't work, you don't eat.
Right.
Like get off your butts. Quit just wait. Well, Jesus is going to return at some point.
Yeah.
Jesus is going to come here at some. And I think even though we may not be waiting,
praying, he'll get here when he gets here.
And I think in the same way, we may not be waiting for like that physical return, but we're kind of waiting around, going, well, just kind of waiting for Jesus to tell us to do something, waiting for Jesus to show up and reveal something. And the reality is, Jesus has already given you the mind that you need to go and do, right? Like, and there's just basic biblical principles we can follow. Yeah. And we don't have to always hear an audible voice of the Lord to know what to do next, right? I don't need a dream to know what to go do next, right? Like, you wake up in the morning, what do I need to do to be faithful? Like, for me, I think of this way. Like, when I wake up in the morning, what do I need to do today to be faithful as a father to my kids, as a husband to my wife, as a pastor to our church, right? Like, what are the things that I need to do to be actively faithful in these things? And not just, well, I'm just going to kind of wait.
I sat at home in my boxers and prayed for everyone all day.
And full disclosure, there are days where I just pray, right? Like, but there also has to be some action with that, right?
Right.
Like, all right. So Joseph, to be a good father, you know what I need to go to do today? Even though I get off of work and I'm tired, go throw the baseball with my son, right? Like, there's those kind of things, like, or it's like Sunday nights at the end of our Sunday night service, I go take one of my two younger ones and we go hang out together and we do discipleship time together. And there's some Sunday nights where I am just dead tired. Like, I am so tired.
That's what you're doing on Sunday nights.
And so, yeah. So, like, I have Sunday night service, and then...
Like, the service ended like an hour ago. What's he doing?
Yeah,
Go watch the...
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, and so, like, service is done at, like, 7:30. We get out by between 7:30 and 8. And, you know, and then I go hang out with one of my younger two kids for an hour and a half, you know, or so, between getting there, hanging out, coming back home. much to Nate's chagrin, I'm hanging out with my kids. And so...
Again, we don't communicate.
Ever. So, but, yeah, that's why... And so my point being is, I don't need the Spirit to, like, lead me to do that. Like, that's just a thing I need to do as a dad, right? And so so I don't want to be the guy who doesn't do those kind of things, and then all of a sudden I've not invested my life into my kids. I've not invested my time into my kids, and all of a sudden the kids don't have a great relationship with me. They start making poor choices and decisions, and then I can be the guy that goes, well, the enemy's really after them.
Yeah.
The enemy's just really after them. No, I didn't do a good job as a dad.
Right.
And the enemy may still be after him.
Right.
I'm not denying that, but now I have really set the stage for it. You know, for an influence to be greater than it needed to be.
By being a bad dad.
By being a bad dad. And, like, that's what I don't want to be, right?
And a murderer.
Right. I'm really throwing myself under the bus this episode, but whatever, right? Or saying the things I could be. Yeah, I don't want to be a bad dad. Yeah. I don't want to be a murderer.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so,
just horrible.
Yeah. So follow the Lord, right? Like, draw near to the Lord, He'll draw near to you, and be faithful with what the Lord has entrusted us. And I think sometimes, you know, and I don't want to be overly critical, because I do think there's the other side, to be honest with you, that's so blinded to the spiritual realm and the spiritual reality.
Well, we're getting to that in the next question.
Okay, well, I'll let you ask that.
Well, you can keep going, though.
Okay. Well, like, there's the other side of it, right? Like, you're never concerned about the spiritual aspects of life. You're only concerned about the temporal. And Scripture is pretty clear that our minds can't just live in that world either.
I think I live pretty heavily that direction.
And I think that's pretty common, especially in America. I mean, we're a pretty, if I'm being honest, like a pretty, you know, like we talked about the last episode or a couple of episodes ago, like we're in a pretty secular, materialistic world. And so that is kind of how we operate and how we think. It's like, what's there in front of us, what's tangible, what's we can grab hold of, right? And we just kind of go along our days, checking these boxes off. Well, worked these hours. Well, made this money. Well, you know, got this food.
Work these hours for Christ.
Right.
Made this money for Christ.
Yeah. And we can't do that.
And that's how I just add my Christianity on top of everything I normally would be doing anyway.
Right. and so instead of, on the opposite side of that, it's like there's a book written by an individual named Brother Lawrence. He wrote a book called Practicing the Presence of God.
Okay.
And it's the idea that in everything you're doing, even the most mundane thing, there can be still a sense of knowing that Christ is near you and that you are near Christ.
Okay.
And so where in other words, you're being cognizant of the fact that it's not just the material world around me, right? Like, it's not like I do all of these things in the temporal world, then go, okay, now I go to church these couple times a week, check off my spiritual boxes, back to just world living, right? And hope God blesses what I do. And obviously, I think God is with us, and God will, you know, if we walk through biblical principles, there's a blessing upon us. I'm not saying there's not, but I'm also saying that there could be a living connection, and, you know, and so there's, you know, all these passages that kind of keep coming to my mind, but like in Colossians chapter 3, so it says, so if you have been raised with Christ, seek the things above where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. And then verse 2, set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. For you died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. And I think that's a huge part, that we do need to be mindful of Christ throughout our days, mindful of the spiritual dimension throughout our days, to not just be bound to the temporal and to what we see. And again, I think that I think we struggle with that in America a great deal. Because of all the materialism, because of the secular society, I think that's a struggle for all of us, even those of us who are Christians, because it's like the rest of the world around us aren't thinking that way, right?
Right.
But for example, when I'm in India, man, it's like crazy spiritual over there, like so much so that everybody's kind of thinking these spiritual, realms and dimensions.
Oh.
And so that's what you got, all these gods, and you have all these Hindu temples and all this stuff. And I remember talking to someone one time, and he said, it's much harder, Joseph, to minister in the United States than it is here. And he's from India, lives in India, ministers in India. And he says, because here in India, we know we need a God. We know there is a God. There's a debate over which one is God.
Right.
But we're so spiritually attuned. He was like, but in America, you don't even think you need him.
Right.
And that is the way that a lot of Americans, function and operate. And there is no need for God, right? And you see the stats bearing it out. As excited I am as about Gen Z and the way that they're turning to Christ, the church attendance is up, all those kind of things. The reality is, in that same generation and then with the millennials, there's also still this continued increase of those who don't believe in anything, right? And we talk about them all the time, the nuns, we don't believe in anything, right? And that percentage of our population just keeps rising, and it's almost a third of our population now just doesn't care. They're just like, whatever. We're not even going to say we're atheist or agnostic. We're just going to, I don't know, and we're just indifferent. None, and so I think it's so anyway, I do think you're right. So to me, there's these two extremes, and as Christians, we can't just live here in this only having our mind and our eyes set low on just what's there, but we also can't just live in a hyper spiritual space too. We are living in this world, and so that idea of Ephesians chapter 4 verse 1, walk worthy like that, of Christ, walk worthy of your calling. And so how do we walk that out? And Ephesians lays it out for us pretty well. He says, walk it out in your church community. This Ephesians 4 through 6 kind of moves this progression. Walk it out in your church community, walk it out in your own individual lives, walk it out in your marriage, walk it out in your households as parents. And so it kind of walks through these stages of practicality with not just sitting there, well, I'm seated with Christ, just looking up to heaven all the time, right? But no, it has to have a practicality to it as well.